There are some hard stances I've taken as a mom, which I think have helped my kids turn out better. And I'm gonna share them with you, even though I think they're gonna be a little bit unpopular. Number one, I have always let my kids own a task as soon as they were old enough or developmentally able to take a task on. Examples of this include, at just 2 or 3 years old, they were responsible for hanging up their own towel after they got out of the bath. Of course, when they were little, this required a ton of reminding. And also, I hung a set of hooks at their level. What this has meant for my kids is they cannot remember a time in their lives where they didn't participate in our household. They didn't arrive at the age of like 5, 6, 7, or 8 and suddenly have to do chores. They have always been required to take on tasks that they can physically do. Another example of this is that my kids are required to do all their own laundry. Between 4th and 5th grade, my husband or I start taking them down to the laundry room and helping them do their laundry. We spend about a year just making sure they understand it and going through with them. And then in 6th grade is a year, you don't get help from laundry anymore from mom or dad. It's yours. Now, this isn't to say we never help. We live in a family where we actually believe like the community can always help you. You can always reach out to the family for help, but you own the mental load of this. So this means if you have a jersey in your laundry and you want someone else to help you watch it, you have to be the one to remember and send the text, "Hey mom, I forgot my jersey's dirty. Can you throw it in the laundry for me?" And I'll be like, "Oh yeah, no problem." But I'm not gonna remember that for you. This has meant that my kids go to some events with dirty clothes on. And I've just let that happen. Another thing that's gonna be wildly unpopular is that my kids have always gotten to choose what type of grades they wanna get. I have never made my kids sit down and do their homework. What my partner and I have done from the beginning is we've actually explained exactly how school works. We're like, school is a place to learn. Although there are some ways and some ways that school works that actually end up not being about learning, and they end up being more about how to play the game of school. And here's the deal. Getting good grades in school actually opens a lot of doors, but it doesn't mean that if you get bad grades in school, they'll always be closed doors, because the people who are most successful in life are the people who just don't quit. They're not necessarily the people who get the best grades. So if you want to neglect to turn in an assignment, you're going to get the grade you deserve, and you're going to have to live with it. And you get to decide, what kind of person do I want to be? We've also explained to them that like, hey, look, when you're getting grades and how your behavior is being assessed by a teacher, like if you hand in like 3 to 4 really good assignments and it's well written and it's on time, you become a person in the class the teacher just kind of assumes is going to be a good student. And the way this works in life, it works everywhere, not just at school, is that if you're assumed to be sort of a high performer or a good kid, even if you kind of slack off later, people tend not to care as much. Your first impression is going to matter a lot. And I know people might hate the fact that I'm saying that, but that's actually true. That works in the real world as well. Okay, another thing we don't do is advocate for our kids. People aren't gonna like this. Okay, it's not entirely true. We don't never advocate for our kids, but we made some distinct choices as they got older, in middle school particularly, where if they were having a trouble with a teacher or a principal, that we wanted them to write letters or emails to their teachers. We wanted them to write letters to the principal, and for them to present their case and trying to communicate for themselves about where they stand and how they'd like to proceed. This is one of the hardest things we've done, quite frankly, because we've noticed in schools, if a teacher does something that might have been a mistake or maybe a little bit unjust, parents intercede and they fight for it, right? An example of this is my oldest wanted to be in National Honor Society, Junior National Honor Society in 8th grade, and the teacher who put out the application put the wrong date on it. As a result, about half the kids missed the deadline because they had the wrong date. All of those kids, my kid was the only one that didn't have a parent call and complain, because we told our child, hey, look, can you present your case? I would like you to go to the principal. I would like you to go to the counselor. I would like you to present your case. And so my child did, and was turned down. The other 5 kids in the class that had this problem all had parents that called, all had parents that yelled at the principal, all got in. This is one of the most difficult things we did, because it was really hard to watch our kids suffer when we know we could have easily got on the phone and made it happen. But do you know what? 3 years later, a very similar thing happened, where a very important deadline was put out for everyone, and the date, my child actually suspected that the date might be fishy. And so my child, knowing how to advocate for themselves and speak up, immediately emailed the teacher and said, hey, can I just verify the dates, please? Having already had a bad experience, my kid got an email response, and the teacher was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I did put out the wrong date. My kid turned in their application on time. Do you know all the other kids whose parents always advocated for them didn't? That was a really painful experience for all of us. I now have a child who advocates for himself all of the time. and also recognizes that the results of that kind of advocacy isn't always just. But he's not scared to do it for himself because he's had practice. The reason I do all of this is because motherhood is my assignment and not my identity. I feel really intentional about the fact that I want to be my kids' mother, but not their maid, not their servant. For me, taking on every bit of my children's life would mean that I didn't like them as much because I would resent their existence of having to do every single thing for them all the time. A big reason why I took on this posture is because I was reading child development books when the kids were little. Book after book after book verified that the best way to instill self-esteem in kids is actually to give them chores. And the reason that this actually gives kids self-esteem is because it actually makes them an official part of the community. You're not just telling kids that they're valuable, you're actually giving them a purpose within their own community, even the community of their household. And everybody takes responsibility for their own stuff. Because as it turns out, human beings actually learn the best by doing. And if we don't let our kids do and make mistakes along the way, they don't know how to get better.